Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. The horrendous incident of a Tanzanian girl student attacked by a mob in Bangalore last Sunday, which came to light yesterday, has shocked a lot of people. The girl was just a passerby and had nothing to do with an earlier accident in which a Sudanese student had ran over a woman and killed her. The reaction of the local police, who had failed to register an FIR immediately, and the subsequent role of the government as well as people have all raised a lot of questions. Bangalore has also seen in the past attacks on northeastern people, which have resulted in large-scale movement of these people from Bangalore. Why is Bangalore, once known as most friendly to all kinds of people from all over the world, now becoming so intolerant? Where are these tendencies coming from? Why have Africans become a target? To what extent are the Africans themselves responsible for what they face? We will discuss all this today with Meera Shankar, former ambassador, Joginder Singh, who will be joining us very soon, Professor S.S. Jodhka of the Center for Study of Social Systems at the JNU, and Sachidananda Murthy, resident editor of The Week magazine. Welcome to all of you. Professor Jodhka, what is happening? Where is this all coming from? Is this, some people are saying that it's some kind of a road rage or mistaken identity and things like that. Do you see much more than all these things?
Yeah.
Is there a pattern?
There is a pattern. We have seen it in Delhi happen like this before, and there is in urban areas generally you have a kind of sense of anonymity, so people do come together, and we also have a very strong prejudice about the other, and other can be anything. Other can be a woman, other can also be from another caste, but now increasingly I think there is also a new notion of race which has kind of manifested itself. It has perhaps always been there. We have also been very color conscious people. We also distinguish people on the basis of their height and their size, and we typify them. We kind of classify them as superior, inferior, good, bad. So I think the new kind of racial consciousness that has become part of urban life, we saw it in Delhi several times actually, that whenever you have a kind of, particularly against the black person, you have strange kind of mob mentality. They somehow seen as bearer of crime, or they would create problem. So it's a kind of racist mindset. It's not just simply distinction.
So are you trying to say that this is a racial kind of an incident?
Well, one doesn't really know the details of it, but this kind of pattern one has seen in many urban contexts where people, because of diversity, new kind of diversity is increasing. There's more migration of people from different parts of the world. They're coming and staying in cities, picking up specific occupations in urban areas. So there's a new kind of prejudice that is taking shape. To some extent, perhaps it is linked to divisions that are emerging in society. There are new kind of occupations which people can't understand, can't figure out. But there is very clear racial division in our society. Like you mentioned, Northeast. Northeast is seen as the other, as not being us, right? So I think Northeast is a classic example where you have occasional incidents of violence happening in different urban areas. Bangalore is just one of them. Bangalore is not unique.
Right.
And again, black communities face a lot of violence, individually, sometimes collectively. In Delhi, you see a lot of prejudice. People, when they talk about it, somehow you identify drugs with black, you identify certain kind of crime patterns with them.
So stereotype them.
Yeah, stereotyping is still all right, but it's kind of very strong prejudice which leads to discrimination and violence. I think that is a stereotype. You can have stereotype about the other person and still live with it. That's not an issue. But when it takes the form of discrimination and violence, that is when I think it becomes an issue for public and society and the state, and it needs to be addressed and needs to be raised. It needs to be identified that it is a racial difference and racial crime, so that you can act on it. You can make consciousness of it.
You mentioned twice or thrice the issue that in urban areas. So you think this is just an urban phenomenon?
Yes, this is a purely urban phenomenon and very recent phenomenon. It was not there in India earlier because migrations were lesser. Even when there were cities or urban centers, they mostly had population from the region where the town or city is located. But in last 20-30 years, we have seen massive migrations because of the nature of new economy, that you need labor of different kinds of professions, different kinds of individual with specialization. Three of us sitting here, we come from different regions of the country. So city is the place where everyone comes in, and this has increased manifold. Our urban areas are also growing very fast, but they are also bringing people, middle class is becoming much more diverse ethnically. And every city, big city, Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, they'll have much more diversity then. And now increasingly last 10, 15 years, we have seen global movement of population also coming into India. And this is happening all over the world.
Yes.
The urban areas are becoming much more diverse racially and ethnically. And these are issues which are very common globally. So this is not something which is peculiar to Bangalore. And this is something with which people had to deal with in different parts of the world. And we must recognize that this is happening here in India as well. Race is not something that exists only in New York or in Chicago. It also exists in Delhi and Bangalore.
Okay, that means you have been, that's actually a little disturbing what you're saying. Meera, Shankar, you know, what Professor Jodhka says is quite disturbing. We need to admit and accept and deal with it. But when this large number of students, especially students from Africa, we are told that in Bangalore itself there are 12,000 African students who are studying, and apart from people who may be doing jobs and things like that. And they are there now all over in all the major cities in India. So are they told when they are coming here, are they given some idea of what Indian society is all about, what the cultural differences are? Why do these students face these kind of situations?
I think, when they are scholarship students coming on scholarships from the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, I think this kind of familiarization and briefings do take place. If they are coming on their own, then quite often it is left to the universities to handle, and many of them are really not attuned to providing familiarization, to providing counseling, to not only foreign students but also Indian students. By and large, the students are left on their own. But I would agree that there are two factors really which are at play. One is, as was mentioned by the professor here, that there is increasing migration, both internally within the country and from outside. Now, if you go to Coimbatore, for instance, you'll see that the factories are running 3 kitchens. They are running a kitchen for South Indians, but now people from Tamil Nadu are not the only workers, because many of them don't want to work in factories. They are more prosperous. So labor is coming from Bihar and it is coming from Orissa. So there are 3 kitchens, one cooking maybe with coconut oil, and 2 with mustard oil. Now that's at a practical level. Then to navigate this diversity is a challenge for all societies, but as I think it behoves us as a multi-ethnic, multilinguistic, multi-religious society to be able to navigate this better than other countries, rather than to fall back on this by saying every society has a challenge with integrating diversity. The numbers of African students have been a plus point for us.
Why do you say
so
that?
many of the African leaders.
Why do you say that it's a plus
I was
point?
saying because, people from Europe are not likely to come and use the Indian educational system. And so many of the students from Africa who studied in India went back to their countries and later became the leaders of their countries, whether in Tanzania itself or in other countries. And that has developed a fund of goodwill for India in Africa. So I don't think that we should lose this fund of goodwill by our behavior, which is either prejudiced or violent. I mean, prejudice can be there, as was mentioned in many societies, but that cannot be articulated through violence and intimidation.
Okay, Sachi?
Yeah.
Sachi, as a original Bangalorean, how disturbed are you about this kind of situation? Do you see this? Do you see this as a new phenomenon? Do you see how do you see this?
No, Girish, I think Bangalore has always these things. Bangalore is very calm, quiet for about 8-10 years. then certainly there will be a horrific incident against foreigners. Because the first influx of foreigners to Bangalore happened in early 70s when a lot of Iranians
Correct.
came to study in engineering colleges. I mean, that was a big this thing. You know, Iranians means everybody was scared of them. They were burly, very different kind of fellows. They were talking. And suddenly, you know, you remember in one of the South Bangalore colleges, one Iranian student was beaten to pulp. I was a reporter at that time because he just didn't understand what to ask and said a word, and this other student mistook him that he was abusing their parents or something. So Bangalore, and also, you know, Bangalore has seen this not just against foreigners, but intra-Indian this thing. Look at the way in 1992 during the Kaveri agitation, thousands of Tamilians had to flee Bangalore because of the very heightened passions on that issue. Again, that happened when a Kannada superstar died. There were a lot of violence. So there's this, because Bangalore is the only city in the country which has you know, regular shows in many theatres for films from 6 languages. So it's a very absorptive city, but then this kind of thing erupts. And now, it is not just the students. There are more than 1.5 lakh visitors from Africa and Arab world who come for medical treatment to Bangalore and Karnataka. And then I was in Bangalore last week and I was talking to one of the real estate agents who had said, sir, the worst people to give this thing are first are African, second are the Chinese. So I said, where are the Chinese? He said there are more than 20,000 Chinese in Bangalore. And they are, you know, Japanese are very good, but these Chinese do this, do and all. So I mean, there's a lot of, again, it's a melting pot. And sometimes these melting points, you know, boil over and these things happen.
I know. Okay. We are now joined in by Mr. Joginder Singh. Mr. Joginder Singh is a former director of the CBI and also somebody who has worked in Karnataka. His cadre was in Karnataka. He knows Karnataka. Mr. Singh, how do you see this, you know, what has happened in Bangalore? Professor Jodhka, before you came in, Jodhka was saying that this is a phenomenon which is happening in major cities, not just in India, but outside also. But if we have to see the Bangalore incident, how would you look at it?
I think Karnataka is one of the best states. This odd incident should not be glorified into this thing. What happened to Indians in Uganda? Idi Amin threw all of them here. What else is there except their dislike for others also? There are many other countries also who do the same thing. A Sikh was beaten in America, mistaking him for a Muslim. So these things you can't say here that whole America is anti-Indian or something here. It happens. I was going through the entire episode here. It appears that a colored lady, she had overrun or killed somebody. So people got excited here because the law won't
But
punish.
she did. A male Sudanese student is supposed to have run over this woman, and this Tanzanian girl, along with her friends, that coming in that side after about half an hour, and then they were beaten up.
Sir, the point here is that anybody who's available, who's of that color, there are other people here, people are bound to take their revenge. It is not that somebody...
Why should they, sir?
No, point is here...
When you say bound to, that means, does it mean that this is something which we have to expect?
I don't justify, but I can understand the excitement, the resentment of the people because the law won't punish them here. We have 1861 laws here. For your kind information, in 2013, there are 1,44,000 people killed in traffic offences, as against 34 to 34,000 murders which take place every year. When they know law won't punish it, people are bound to get resentful. In their own country, they are being run over by somebody else. I mean, I'm not supporting people in Bangalore, but this is something which is normal on this thing also.
No, Mr. Joginder Singh, you know, your point is well taken. You're saying that the laws don't apply, laws don't work, so people tend to take law into their own hands. That's what you're trying to say, I think, if I have understood correctly. But the point is that, you know, if let us assume that this was not the original person who, you know, was involved in the accident, that Sudanese guy was actually an Indian guy. You think somebody else, another Indian who was passing by, would have been attacked in the way it has been attacked? So
No,
what I'm trying to ask is, do you see some kind of a racism involved in
No,
this?
it is there in
incident?
every country. I can tell you, I was in UK, in Manchester University, for a course. The course director first told us, we were a couple of, as compared to them, the blacks. He says, he put it very nicely. He says, please move in groups. In some area, you will be safer than me. In some area, I am safer than you. He didn't want to say this thing here. It happens everywhere here, and I can tell you, India is the most tolerant country, and Karnataka is the best that way. I think you won't see any kind of incidents, but for some provocation. I don't justify the provocation. But point is here, it takes about 20-25 years to punish anybody here. So people, whatever you call it here, to take law, if there is a law existing in their hands here. I have already given you the facts and figures. Maybe the government doesn't want to strengthen the police. Maybe the powers that we think 1861 laws are as good as in 2016, whereas they should have been thrown in the Indian Ocean immediately after independence.
Okay, Professor Jodhka, is this a problem of laws?
Yeah, there is a general sense of frustration, that is true, but thinking like this, that it happens in other countries, therefore one can understand what is happening here. The same argument will apply if a Sikh is killed in US, being confused with Muslims, and Muslims are known as violent people, and that is also justified then. Everything is justified. The point is that sitting here, we people who are trying to think about making this country a livable place, a better place, we have to think in terms of kind of law and order question, how professionally does our police force respond? I mean, these things happen, violence happens, crime happens, but the point is, what is the response to that kind of crime? Racial crimes in US are generally dealt with professionally. Sometimes they are not, because police force also is racially divided and racially prejudiced, but that is not justifiable, that is not understandable. That is in itself a crime. I think crime should be called as crime and not something that is understandable. I think that should be the starting point. And then you can recognize who were the people, it's possible that there were other problems. All those things are relevant. You know, why did people attack? Because there was, so those are nitty-gritties, but as at the broader level, one can't justify anything, not just justify, one can't even say that this is understandable because it happens elsewhere. I think it has to, the starting point has to be that this is unfortunate, this must be condemned, and then you see why was it allowed to happen. There is role of civil society, there is role of law enforcing agencies, there is a role of general kind of urban mind that we can't allow this. If it happens tomorrow, it will happen to everyone else.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so
No,
this is something which is very, very scary.
Professor Jodhka,
Yeah.
is it a problem? Is it a problem more with the blacks?
No.
As Indians, is it a problem more with the blacks?
See, racial prejudice.
Because we haven't seen many cases of whites being attacked like this. You know, whites have problems in India. They have different kinds of problems. But I don't know whether
We are also we are also subjects of colonial empire. We look up to white people as superior people, as wise people. They are unlikely to do anything wrong. So our racism is also colonial racism. Therefore, we inherit the mindset of white men. Therefore, we don't really look at white man as the other, as somebody who will do bad things. But internally, we do have racism in relation to Northeast people, which is actually racism. We don't look at any other feature. They just look alike. Whether a person is Chinese or whether a person is from Nagaland, whether the person is from Assam, we all put them in one bracket.
Right.
And then we treat them as if, like, you know, they are our enemies and they are incapable of doing good things. They'll always do bad things. And black, obviously, there is kind of, you know, color consciousness that we have. The black, we kind of dark is something we think it's bad color. And, you know, even in kind of gender relations, color becomes very critical. So I think there is a kind of mindset which operates, which kind of constructs that kind of psychology, where black color gets identified with something which is bad. And therefore, it kind of comes very easily. And then you justify into social action. And then
you justify
then
this
you
kind
justify or at least don't feel guilty about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Joginder Singh, you want to react?
I only wanted to say,
Yes.
forget about anything here. Even in India, you see any matrimonial advertisement, they say wanted a beautiful, fair girl here.
Right.
Fair
That's racism. Yeah, that's also racism.
I'm saying here, right from there itself, prejudice
Yes,
starts.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, Meera.
Point is, there is a
No, I
Punjabi
was saying
saying,
that,
"Bure rang da zamana kade hoye na purana." You want always fair people around you.
Okay.
This is something, maybe this is edited here, but I thought I must tell you.
Okay. Yes.
No, I think the important thing, whether it's justified, whether there's a provocation, whether it's natural or not, the important thing is this desirable behavior? Is this the kind of behavior we want to encourage in
Exactly.
society by rationalizing it? Or is this the kind of behavior we would like to grow out of?
Right.
And I think it's clear that this is the kind of behavior we should grow out of. Yes, there is frustration and there is mob behavior which tends to become violent, not only against foreigners but also against Indians. If you have ever seen any Indian involved in such an incident, it's equally likely that the mob would have lynched them or burnt the car.
But
And the
not
thing
somebody
is-
who came half an hour later.
Yeah.
No,
no.
but
In
sometimes-
this case, it was just because this
Sometimes
girl
they-
happened to be the same color
Well,
of the.
sometimes they attack anything in the vicinity.
That's right.
Even if it is unrelated. And I think this way of expressing outrage by mobs, where there is a sense of impunity because you are acting in a crowd,
Right.
that you will not be punished, that the law will not take its course, and that you will get away free, especially if it is large mobs acting together. I think it encourages this kind of behavior. Two, as was mentioned earlier, the increasing diversity, both foreign and Indian, regional, in these cities, the competition for jobs and urban stress. I think urban stress is something which everybody is facing because our cities have become mega cities. If you look at Bangalore,
Yes.
it's become such a huge mega city and traffic is chaotic. It doesn't move.
Right, all
There's
this
road rage. Then
results in
these
pressures,
factors
more and more
results in
pressure.
pressures, but I think the important thing is not to condone such behavior,
Absolutely.
but to see how we can evolve out of it.
Meera, as a diplomat, if you had to handle this kind of a situation, what are the repercussions of this kind of incidents which happen on our people living abroad? Or how do you deal with the country which is involved in this?
I think, people understand that this kind of incident, this kind of mob behavior can occur in all places. It's important for the government to demonstrate that this is not something that they condone. So the government has to be proactive in terms of trying to, apprehend those involved or the instigators. Also to convey, and I think the foreign minister has already called it a shameful incident and conveyed our apologies to the individual concerned and also to the government of that country.
Repercussions on Indians living abroad or Indians living in those countries, is that something a matter of concern?
As of now, there haven't been repercussions. And I think as long as there is this, it's understood that this is not behavior which the government of India condones. This is not behavior which Indian society would like to encourage. I think people will understand that stray incidents or isolated incidents can occur. But Indians have faced prejudice as a group in the past. First I think they were, the Indians in Sri Lanka were made stateless,
Right.
deprived of their citizenship. From Myanmar, the Indians were expelled in the 60s. From Uganda, they were expelled. They faced prejudice in Fiji, I should say persons of Indian origin,
Right.
not Indians, and sometimes Indians as well. So it's not as though Indians have not been subjected to their share of prejudice, and racial prejudice is something which they do face even now in the developed world, but it does not that often degenerate into violence.
Though we have seen this happening in Australia in the recent past. Sachi, Bangalore, is prejudice in Bangalore a growing phenomenon?
Yeah, it's a growing phenomenon because I think there's enormous competition for jobs, for urban space, and this thing from different
No, and
groups.
also, when it
also
comes to blacks, since this is
Yeah, yeah.
involving blacks, there are a whole lot of prejudices, as Professor Jodhka was pointing out. But we had seen in Bangalore earlier more tolerance towards this kind of. Why are people becoming so intolerant?
No, also, what happens is mobs. I mean, who takes the leadership of mob? If he's a reasonable person, he'll say, all right, go away. Because it has happened in Bangalore early. With one of my colleagues was telling me that there were 2-3 incidents involving the Africans. But somebody took charge. Okay, let us take him to the police station. But here there was a group of 4-5 people who said, no, we have to teach them a lesson, we'll do this. And that means the good people did not come forward to resist. Because, whenever an incident happens, a hit and run, case happens, there will be a big crowd which gathers. But then who takes charge? That is very important. So that goodness in the mob, that has to come out. It is not just a mob, it's a crowd, I would say, in that case, with the good people. But otherwise, you remember another incident in Bangalore where an Australian young man, because he was wearing a tattoo of a Hindu god on his, I think he was wearing short, they wanted to, skin him there to remove the tattoo. I mean, so then others intervened in that restaurant or wherever it happened. So like that, we need more and more people, good
who
people
have to stand
up and tell these fellows, don't do this. Who the hell are... These are good people, these are Africans, we need more, and we need more and more people from different countries to come in so that, people are not shocked by the sight of these people, by their...
Mr. Singh, the question is the role of the police here. These are students whom India, Indian education institutions are encouraging them to come and study here. There's a lot of effort which is being put in to get these students to come and study in India because, the education institutions needs them. So, where does the role of the police come here? Is there any organized attempt to understand, to make them understand the culture? People living around should be made to sensitized about the kind of culture with these students, or people from outside coming from what kind of culture they belong to. What is the role of the police here? Mr. Joginder Singh?
Yes, I'll answer that. What you say is true, but then so many duties have been dumped on the police, which is understaffed, ill-trained, ill-educated. I'll quote only Mr. Chidambaram. He said in 2012 in Chhattisgarh, inaugurating the annual Police Chiefs Conference, there are 21 lakh policemen sanctioned in the country. Actually, 6 lakh vacancies. So where is the police? Yeah, I was reading, police has been, they said they will ask the CBI to search for a latrine files where they have gone and they are missing in this thing. You see page 2 of one of the English papers here. So this is all kinds of duties. It is not the police job. It is job of the education. It is a job of the society. They have violated the law at the best, which is non-cognizable offence. Thrashing somebody. You slap somebody, no crime. You use a knife on him, it becomes a grievous crime here. That's why I said here that this is right from catching of the stray dogs to regulating traffic. You say everything should be done by the police. After all, give them manpower, give them training. They don't even know
how to deal with these things.
The point is here, they don't even know the laws. I'll tell you, I was superintendent of police in Bidar, it's one of the districts in Karnataka. I asked him, went to police station. I said, do you know what act applies here? He said, Hyderabad Police Act. I said, what are you talking
So anyway, okay, sir. So we're running out of time, but the fact you want to respond very quickly to the, do you see this problem growing, or do you see any organized attempt to understand and deal with this?
Yeah, first of all, we must recognize that this is a problem, and this problem is likely to grow unless we deal with it. We have to deal with it at various levels. I think police is very, very critical agent, because we have to sensitize, professionalize police on these kinds of subjects. That not only they are foreigners, they look different, but that doesn't mean that they don't have rights here.
Absolutely.
They may not have citizenship rights, but they otherwise need to be given that space which everyone deserves, because we are all mobile.
Yeah, very quickly. Bangalore and Karnataka particularly has many chauvinistic and xenophobic organizations which says that Karnataka for Kannadigas and all that. These kind of organizations are encouraged by politicians. Society will have to condemn these kind of organizations.
I think on that note, on that rather grim note, we need to end this program and hope that the society will be able to overcome these problems, deal with these problems in a rational manner instead of getting into violent acts. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, the big picture, same time.